March 5, 2026, midnight. Every single insurance policy protecting ships in the Persian Gulf expires. No tanker can move. Not one barrel of oil can legally cross the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the world's oil supply locked behind an invisible wall. Not missiles, not mines, paper. Within 48 hours, the United States steps in with a $20 billion insurance program of its own. And just like that, a 336-year-old British monopoly over the world's oceans is over. This is the story of how America seized control of global shipping without firing a single extra shot. Let's put this in perspective. The Strait of Hormuz is only 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. That's shorter than the drive from downtown LA to Long Beach. But through that tiny gap, 20 million barrels of oil pass every single day, 1/5 of the entire planet's supply. When Iran closed it in March 2026, oil prices jumped from $65 to $126 a barrel.
That's like gas doubling at your local pump overnight. Every American household felt it. Tanker traffic dropped 81% in days. Over 150 ships just anchored, waiting. No war had ever shut down this much global trade this fast, not even in the 1970s oil crisis. But here's what almost nobody noticed. The real war wasn't between the US and Iran. It was between Washington and London London didn't even realize it was under attack. To understand why, we need to talk about something nobody thinks is exciting: insurance. Okay, let's open the map, and let's start not in the Middle East, but in London. See this building? It's Lloyd's of London. You've probably never heard of it, but it might be the most powerful financial institution you've never thought about. Lloyd's isn't an insurance company. It's a marketplace, like the New York Stock Exchange, but for risk.
It started in 1688 in a coffee shop. Merchants would bet on whether ships would make it home. I'll cover your loss if your ship sinks. You pay me a fee. That's insurance, born right there. For 336 years, Lloyd's has dominated the world's maritime insurance. Over 330 years, think about that. That's older than the United States itself. It insured slave ships. It insured the Titanic. It paid out after the San Francisco earthquake in 1906. It has survived 2 world wars. Here's the key thing. If Lloyd's won't insure your ship does not sail. Not because of any law, because no port will accept an uninsured vessel. No cargo will load. Think of it like this. Your car won't physically stop without insurance, but you can't legally drive it. Same idea, but at the scale of global trade worth trillions of dollars a year. Now let's zoom back to the map. The Strait of Hormuz, right here between Iran and Oman.
This 21-mile choke point handles roughly 20 million barrels of oil per day. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iraq, Qatar, all of their oil exports flow through this gap. And who decides whether those tankers can sail? Not the navies, not the UN, the insurers. Specifically, a group called the Joint War Committee. It sits inside Lloyd's of London. This committee draws lines on a map, areas of enhanced risk. If your route crosses a line, your insurance premium could jump 5 times, 10 times, or your coverage gets cancelled entirely. No coverage, no voyage. It doesn't matter if your engines work, your ship is grounded by paperwork. Britain figured this out centuries ago. Control the insurance and you control the seas. The British Empire wasn't built only on the Royal Navy. It was built on Lloyd's of London. The Navy enforced control. Lloyd's financed it. Together, they owned the global ocean. And even after the empire fell, the insurance monopoly remained, quietly, invisibly, for decades. Until March 2026, when the invisible empire finally cracked. Now, let's go to Washington, February 28, 2026. The United States and Israel launched joint strikes on Iran, including the killing of Iran's supreme leader. Iran retaliates.
missiles at U.S. bases, drones at Gulf ports, and a threat no one expected to actually happen. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. Any ship that enters, we will set it ablaze. Within 72 hours, at least 4 commercial ships are hit. 1 crew member is killed. And then comes the real blow, not from Tehran, from London. On March 2nd, every major insurer, Guard, Skuld, North Standard, London P&I, cancels war risk coverage. By midnight, March 5th, it's official. No active war risk insurance exists for the Persian Gulf. The Strait of Hormuz wasn't closed by Iran. It was closed by insurance companies in London. Now, here's where the story gets really interesting. Pay close attention to the timeline. February 28th, U.S. strikes begin. March 2nd, Lloyd's insurers cancel coverage. That's 48 hours. March 3rd, 1 day later, President Trump announces the U.S. will provide its own insurance. He orders the Development Finance Corporation, the DFC, to cover all maritime trade. Think about that speed. Britain took 48 hours to retreat. America took 24 hours to fill the void. By March 11th, Chubb, America's biggest publicly traded insurer, is named lead underwriter. A $20 billion reinsurance program, backed by the full faith of the United States government. Let me make sure you understand what just happened. For 300 years, if you wanted to ship oil, you went to London. You sat at Lloyd's. You got a British underwriter to initial your slip.
That piece of paper, that slip, was your permission to sail the world's oceans. Now you go to Washington, you deal with Chubb, you get an American backstop. The permission slip changed hands from a British coffee house to the White House. And this wasn't some hostile takeover. Lloyd's walked away on its own. It ran from the risk. Washington didn't steal anything. It simply showed up when London left the room. But here's the question nobody is asking. Was this really a coincidence? Think about the speed. The DFC program was announced the very next day after Lloyd's pulled out. Chubb was ready within 8 days. A $20 billion program. That doesn't get built in a week. The legal frameworks, the reinsurance structure, the eligibility criteria, all ready to go. This wasn't improvisation. This was preparation meeting opportunity.
The U.S. didn't cause Lloyd's to panic. The war did, but Washington was ready for the opening. Now, before you call this a conspiracy theory, let's look at the public record. Trump's Truth Social post on March 3rd, effective immediately. Those are his words. The Congressional Research Service confirmed it. DFC providing political risk insurance to all ships. DFC's own press release, combining Chubb's underwriting expertise with the commitment of the U.S. government. This is all public information, congressional hearings, official statements, press releases. The question isn't whether it happened, the question is what it means. And what it means is enormous, so let's break it down with a metaphor. Imagine a toll booth on the only highway between 2 cities. Every truck carrying food, fuel, medicine, every single one must pass through this booth. Now, the booth doesn't charge a toll. It checks your insurance card. No card, no passage. For 300 years, a British company printed those cards. Everyone knew, go to London, get your card. Then one day, a fire breaks out near the highway. Dangerous, but the road itself is fine. The British card printer panics. Too risky. I'm not covering any trucks on that road anymore. Overnight, hundreds of trucks are stranded. They have fuel, they have cargo, but no cards. Cities on both sides start running low on food and fuel. Prices skyrocket. People get angry. And then a new card printer shows up, an American one, with a big sign. We're open for business. Our cards work here. U.S. government guarantee. Reasonable prices. Step right up. Now the trucks roll again, but with American cards, under American rules, through the American booth. The fire eventually dies down. The British printer comes back. All right, I'm ready to sell cards again.
But the truckers shrug. We've already switched. Your cars took too long to come back. And here's the kicker. The American booth doesn't just check cards, it sets the rules. Which trucks get priority? American decides. Which cargo is approved? American decides.
Who gets denied? Who pays more? All American decisions now. That toll booth isn't just an insurance counter anymore. It's a control point, a chokehold. And that is exactly what just happened in the Strait of Hormuz. Except the trucks are tankers, the cards are insurance policies, and the new card printer is the United States of America. Let that sink in. The country that controls marine insurance controls who gets the trade. If America doesn't like your country's behavior, cancel the insurance. Your ships stop. No missiles needed. No sanctions debates at the UN. Just one phone call to Chubb.
Let's make this real. Let's talk about actual people caught in this invisible war. Meet Raj. He's a captain of a gas carrier out of Mumbai, India. His ship sat anchored for 9 days outside the strait. Full cargo, nowhere to go. We had the fuel, we had the crew, we had the cargo, but we didn't have the paper. His company eventually got coverage through the new US-backed program. Cost 5 times the old rate. Now let's talk about Marianne. She manages fuel procurement for a hospital chain in Germany. When Hormuz closed, European natural gas prices jumped over 60% in a single week. We had to choose, heat the wards or keep the surgical equipment powered. We couldn't afford both. She never heard of Lloyd's, she never heard of the DFC, but their decisions reached her hallway. And then there's Tony. He's a Greek ship owner. His family has run tankers for 3 generations. When Lloyd's pulled coverage, some Greek owners were already talking about dark transits. Running the strait at night, no AIS transponder, no insurance, enormous risk, enormous profit. My grandfather ran ships through the Suez Crisis in '56. Sometimes you sail through fear. But Tony ultimately signed up for the US program. American insurance is better than no insurance. And that's the trap. Every ship owner who signs with the American program now has a relationship with Washington, not with London. The habit changes. The default changes. Even when the crisis ends, will they go back to Lloyd's or stick with the known quantity? As one analyst put it, relationships forged in crisis rarely dissolve in peacetime. Over 20,000 seafarers are stranded on vessels in the Gulf right now. These are real people. At least 8 crew members have been killed. Ships hit by projectiles, fires on decks. For them, this isn't geopolitics, it's survival. And they don't care whose flag is on the insurance card. They just want to go home. So why can't this be easily fixed? Why can't Lloyd's just come back and take its throne? Because of something called the doom loop. Once it starts, each step makes the next one worse. Step 1. The war creates real risk. Ships are attacked, crews die. That part is undeniable. Step 2. Insurers calculate the cost of covering that risk. It's enormous, potentially $25 billion in trapped ship value alone. Step 3. The cost of figuring out whether any given ship will survive exceeds the insurance premium. This is the same thing that happened in 2008. Banks stopped lending, not because everyone was broke, but because nobody could afford to check who was broke and who wasn't. Verification killed the market. Same thing here. Ships might be fine, the strait might be crossable, but can you prove it for each voyage?
In 2008, it took TARP, Federal Reserve Programs, FDIC guarantees, months of intervention. The maritime insurance market in 2026, there is no TARP for shipping, no Federal Reserve for reinsurance. Except, and this is the crucial part, the United States just created one, the DFC program. America built the lifeboat. Now everyone has to get in, and the captain of that lifeboat is American. Here's the doom loop for Britain specifically. Lloyd's pulled out to protect itself from losses, but by pulling out, it lost its clients. Clients switched to the American system. When clients leave, Lloyd's loses data on Gulf shipping. Without data, it can't price risk accurately. Without accurate pricing, its premiums are either too high or too risky. More clients leave. Clients leave, data shrinks, pricing gets worse, more clients leave. That's the loop. Meanwhile, Chubb and DFC are building exactly the opposite loop.
More ships sign up, more transit data, better risk models, cheaper premiums, even more ships. And there's a political layer too. Every nation whose ships use U.S. insurance now owes Washington a favor. India, China, Gulf states, their entire energy supply depends on American approval now. China gets 45% of its oil through Hormuz. 45%. Imagine that leverage. If Washington decides to revoke insurance for Chinese-bound vessels, it's an energy embargo. No UN vote, no trade war announcement, just a quiet adjustment to the eligibility criteria. The nuke you never see is the most powerful nuke of all. Some analysts are calling this the evolution from the petrodollar to the transit dollar. Before, the US controlled oil by pricing it in dollars. Now, it controls the actual shipping. Not just oil, all cargo, fertilizer, LNG, manufactured goods, everything that moves by sea.
A paper weapon, no radiation, no casualties, but potentially more devastating than any bomb. And the best part? America didn't start the fire. It just brought the only fire extinguisher. Could Britain have played this differently? Absolutely. Let's look at what others have done. During the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, over 540 ships were attacked, way more than now. Insurance rates tripled, but Lloyd's kept covering ships. Why? Because the government stepped in. The UK created government-backed war risk facilities. Lloyd's stayed in the game. Ships sailed. In 2026, the UK Chancellor met with Lloyd's. They talked, but no comparable backstop appeared. Rachel Reeves said the UK is willing to play its part, but playing a part isn't leading. Compare that to the US. Trump posted one message on social media, effective immediately. Within days, DFC mobilized, Chubb contracted, eligibility criteria set, program operational. Now let's look at another comparison. Norway, tiny country, massive shipping industry. Norway's government has a state-backed war risk insurance fund, has had it for decades. When crises hit, Norwegian ships keep sailing because the state absorbs the risk. Smart. Japan and South Korea have similar arrangements, government guarantees for their merchant fleets. Even China is now negotiating with Iran directly for safe passage, working the problem. Britain sat in meetings, discussed options, expressed willingness, and lost the throne. This is a pattern, by the way. It's not the first time London lost a financial monopoly to New York. After World War I, the pound lost its status as the world's reserve currency. The dollar took over. After World War II, the Bretton Woods system cemented American financial dominance. London adapted. But Lloyd's survived. Marine insurance was the last bastion, the one thing London still owned. Until now. And here's the irony. Lloyd's own CEO insists coverage is still available. We're still here. And technically that's true, but being available and being the default are two very different things. When everyone's first call is to Chubb instead of Lloyd's, the game is over even if the lights are still on. Now, is there any hope for Lloyd's? Actually, yes. One interesting development. Lloyd's Market Association has publicly said they're ready to work with the U.S. program, not competing against it, working alongside it, a public-private transatlantic partnership. The UK Chancellor herself met with Lloyd's chairman to discuss a joint approach. If Britain can swallow its pride and play junior partner, it might salvage a role. Chubb's program just announced it will cover hull, P&I, and cargo, all three legs of the stool. That's the full package. Lloyd's was initially only offering partial coverage. That gap was devastating. But here's the but, and it's a big but. The U.S. program comes with strings. Eligibility criteria are set by the U.S. government. That means Washington decides which ships qualify, which countries' vessels get covered. J.P. Morgan analysts estimate the actual insurance gap is $352 billion. DFC covers $20 billion. That's like covering a $350,000 house with a $20,000 policy. You're exposed on every side. Moody's has already said the program probably won't fully restart shipping without liability coverage. And here's the darkest irony. If the program fails, American taxpayers foot the bill. As one Congress member put it, this looks like the U.S. subsidizing oil shipments to China. So America gained enormous leverage, but it also took on enormous risk. If even one major tanker is sunk, we're talking hundreds of millions in claims from U.S. coffers. Power always comes with a price tag. The question is whether America can afford it, and whether the rest of the world is comfortable with a single country holding this much power over the ocean that technically belongs to everyone. So here's the question I want to leave you with. We live in a world where one insurance document can stop more trade than 1,000 missiles, where the real battle for the oceans isn't fought with aircraft carriers, it's fought with actuarial tables, where a 336-year-old monopoly can crumble in 48 hours, not from war, from a spreadsheet. In the next video, we'll explore what happens when China fights back, because they will. China has already started building its own insurance infrastructure, its own maritime court system. The race for control of the global ocean is only beginning. And you just watched the starting gun fire, right here, March 2026. If you learned something new today, hit that subscribe button, share this video, drop a comment. Did you know insurance could be this powerful? I want to hear your take. Because on this channel, we don't just follow the news, we follow the money. And sometimes, the money is hiding inside a piece of paper nobody reads. I'll see you in the next one.